You all for joining me. I want to start with just a little bit of light breathing. And then we're going to talk for a little bit, not for a long time. I just wanted to say welcome into this new month. Welcome into the next practice that we're going to shift into for February and take it from there. So, why don't you go ahead and take a deep breath in? Inhale in through the nose and exhale through the mouth. Deep breath in through the nose and exhale through the mouth. And again, deep breath in and exhale. Deep breath in and exhale. I want you to think about the idea of where does your body experience loss? And when I say where does your body experience loss, I mean, where do you feel sensations in your body when loss is the current experience? Any type of loss. I want you to think about where do you feel sensations of tightness, clenching, pulling, pressing, any weight. Think about those types of sensations and just identify for a second where you feel those in your body. There's no right or wrong answer, just information. Deep breath in and exhale. And deep breath in and exhale. Go ahead and open your eyes and just get comfortable for a second. Like I said, we're not going to talk for long. Just wanted to welcome you all into the next month a little more intentionally. When I'm thinking about loss, is very personal in my own life right now, and also very much so our collective conversation. Loss of certainty, loss of identity, loss of peace, loss of hope, loss of what should be various joyful seasons. And that can really feel like a lot on the mind and the body. I know for myself that trying to navigate around what feels like a couple years of navigating really big losses. Um, Definitely felt like life has been bringing me to my knees, and the confusion and how sometimes how isolating and so singular loss can feel, it really does get to be unbearable. And I think that if what I've seen for myself is that excuse me, in the times when I was willing to sit with it, it tempered it. And in the times when I wanted to control how deeply I felt the loss, it was all chaos, all hell broke loose. And so I think that in recognizing that, you just have to compassion with yourself and give yourself grace for where you can meet it and where you can't. And it's not always going to look the same. There's going to be waves, there's going to be changes. There's, some days you're going to be more aligned and some days you're not. And that has to be okay. It has to be information, not like a character flaw. So if we tread over it, right, like I said, and, not being able to find the capacity to meet where loss is hitting us the deepest, then that's when we see more chaos start to manifest itself. And I did a movement practice in the barrenness of the snow and the water and the cold. And it was just so interesting to be in that environment and to thinking about this idea of loss, because like that's what loss feels like, right? Like very barren, very much empty, very much like there's nothing left. But what we know about the winter season is that even though things look as though there's nothing there, it's really the beginning of new life. And to be able to even find a reason to move or to dance or to summon some type of energy in the midst of that type of barrenness takes a small seed of hope, a small seed of faith that perhaps a something will shift, something may loosen in the circumstances and things may shift and become better. But we can't get to that point when we are in resistance and unwilling to look at how we're just kind of treading over the experience. One of the things that in the meditations that I've been listening to this week and different lectures around understanding the way in which trauma feeds these various cycles in our lives is that wherever the loss is the loudest, wherever it feels the loudest, wherever it hurts the loudest in your life, it's hitting on a core wound, and a wound that needs not to be diminished and kind of packaged away very neatly, but it needs to be expressed, it needs to be seen, it needs to be witnessed. And so, again, if we have resistance to even meeting the wound and meeting where we're feeling the loss itself before we even get to understanding what wound it's hitting, we're not going to be able to even get to the root or what's underneath all of the distress, the discomfort, the kind of oscillating back and forth. We're not even going to be able to get to that part because we've not been able to face the loss even in itself. So, and even in that, remembering again that resistance is normal. Resistance is normal. I just want to say that over and over and over again because it can feel like you have to be at some perfected version of your healing process in order to move forward or in order to like have some sense of achievement, but resistance to the healing, resistance to doing your work, resisting to owning what's coming up for you is so normal. And if you could even sit with your resistance enough to use it as data, you'd find your way back into connection with self, with the body a lot easier because you're recognizing that this isn't something that takes you out of the practice. This is part of the process of getting there. And so, in all of that, there's four pieces that have been coming up continuously that, in these meditations, um, that I think we can really zone in on this month. When we recognize the blocks that we're having in the ways that we're showing up to recognizing our grief, to recognizing the losses, and to recognizing what wounds that those things are touching on, then we can understand what are the blocks to the types of intimacy that we're craving to experience. And there's four pieces within that we can challenge and use our movement practice to be able to kind of like massage, and that's perception, embodiment, behavior, and vision. And I'll talk about those briefly, and then I'm actually gonna save this next portion for a part two, because I think I want to give this a little bit more time than just a few minutes. So, but for perception, embodiment, behavior, and vision. So when we're thinking about those things, the perception is the way in which we're seeing the experience within our life. That's the kind of that first thing that we're hitting. That's the reality that's created for us. Then our behavior would be how we're showing up within that experience. No right or wrong, no good or bad, just who are you in this circumstance and in this reality. And then the embodiment would be kind of like your beliefs, your values, all of those things. Like, how do all of those pieces fit together to create this picture of the experience that you're having? And then finally, what's your vision for what you want in contrast, or what's your desire in relationship to this contrasting experience? So that the loss highlights something that we're grieving, right? And so what's the opposite of the thing that we're grieving, right? That would be a part, or at least a starting point for what the vision actually is. What is the thing that you would actually hope to happen in place of this thing that you're grieving, or in place of the thing that is being experienced as loss? So I know this is not the normal February, Valentine's Day conversation, but I think that we're going to get there. I just would like to take a slower pathway to being able to open up to intimacy within the body, whether that's partnered or self intimacy, but being able to understand what are some of the blocks that kind of hinder us from being able to get there, and how can we use our movement practice as a way to shift those four experiences around perception, behavior, embodiment, and vision, and cultivating the energy that we desire in our lives, utilizing that yummy, seductive, playful energy. Um, I think we're going to have fun. And I'm looking forward to sharing more with you all. And so the way that this will work, we'll have a couple 15-minute practices at the top of this next 2 weeks. I want to show you all what it means to just take 15 minutes to get into your body, to get into the practice. If you don't have 15 minutes, do 5 minutes, and then try to come back to the video 3 times throughout the day just to find that refueling and to have that opportunity to take a break. When you have this movement time, things will shift. We're not talking about movement for the sake of fitness or productivity. We're talking about simply movement for the sake of feeling, movement for the sake of reconnecting back with the body, movement for the sake of understanding exactly where it is that the body's at in this moment in time and what it needs in order to be able to move forward. So when we get that movement time and we start to pair that with this conversation around how do we meet the loss that we're experiencing in our lives, you're going to experience more spaciousness. This is not saying the loss and the feeling is going to disappear and you're going to be over it and it won't bother you. That's not what I'm offering. What I'm offering you is an opportunity to be able to move with it, to be able to understand it, to dig a little bit deeper into it so that it doesn't feel like something that has all of this dominating power and control over you, but something that you can actually work with to better understand yourself and better understand what it is that you need. Yeah, that feels right. Okay, so let me see. Is there anything else that I want to tell you all? So if you're not on the newsletter, make sure you go ahead and jump on the newsletter, and so that you can get access to the prompts each day for the 15-minute sessions. And there will be additional coaching sent in the emails as well. And I'm really interested to hear your thoughts. Like, are you navigating with loss in your life? How are you navigating around loss and also staying hopeful about the things that you desire, especially around love and intimacy and partnership and even self intimacy? What are the things that you're doing to maintain your vision? I want to know. Talk to me. Talk to me in the comments or send me an email through the website at themessymovementlab.com. I'm really looking forward to this month with you all, and thank you for joining me for a little bit of time this evening. Talk to you soon.